Hey everybody, for this tutorial I wanted to share a technique that I use when I'm auditioning. Here you can see a typical audio file that you might have from an audition. One thing you notice is that it's kind of hard to pick things out as far as like maybe where the starting point is or if I made a mistake. Just looking at it, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on here. So I can see I see this pause here, which means okay, maybe that's the starting point.
Before we begin,
No, actually from the script I know that's in the middle of it, so this must have been a pause when I made a mistake and then started over. Here's another pause, so maybe this is another mistake.
welcome to this tutorial.
No, actually that's the start of the clip, so it's a little confusing looking at this, knowing where everything is. Now, could I get through it editing-wise? Of course I could, and it would go fairly quickly, but not as quickly as if I had some visual indicator to tell me certain things about the file. For example, where do I start with the script? I'm probably going to do several takes, so if I had a way to point out where I started each time, that would help. Or if I had any mistakes in there. The last thing I want to do is send mistakes to the client in an audition, so I got to cut those out. So if I had a way to indicate where the mistakes were, that would help in the editing process too. Well, it turns out there is a way to do it, and it's a very simple way. Here's what my typical audition file will look like, and it looks similar to what you just saw, except you see these little spikes along it. Here's two here, here's one, here's two. This is the sound of me snapping my fingers. And I do this to mark off certain things in my audition. When I start the script over, so if I start another take, I'll snap my fingers twice. So I can use this to figure out where my good takes are. And usually when I'm auditioning, the last take is the good one, because once I get a good take, that's usually enough and I send it out. So I'll start by looking for the final set of two snaps, which is right here. So I can pretty much bet that this is the start of my audition.
Jerry MacKay.
Yep, and because this is the final two snaps that I see here, I know this is the last good take. So without even listening to it, I can put my cursor here, split it, and trim it down. So I've gotten one step out of the way. Now the other thing I use snaps to mark are my mistakes, because nobody's perfect, especially me, and you're bound to make mistakes. So here I have one snap, and I used one snap to indicate where I made a mistake. So let's take a listen to where I picked it up from.
Before we begin,
Okay, so I'm going to want to back up here, and I'm going to bet that this part here, because it's a similar length, is what I'm replacing.
before we begin,
And it is. So I can simply select this area and cut it out and play it from here.
using in this tutorial. Before we begin,
And I know I'm good to go. And then all I have to do is simply jump to the end, trim off the end, and my audition is basically edited. Was that hours quicker than if I did it without the snaps? No, of course not. It might only be maybe 30 seconds or a minute quicker. However, in the world of auditioning, especially when you're auditioning online, seconds and minutes, they can count. They can be the difference between being audition number 5 and audition number 50. This is a great way to speed up the process. It also works really well if you're doing long-form audio recording, because you're bound to have mistakes there, and you want to make sure that you edit all the mistakes out, because you don't want to send that to the client. So seeing those snaps immediately tells you that there's a mistake there, so you can jump to all of the mistakes and edit them out and make sure that they're all gone. So do you need to use snaps? No. You could use a pencil tapped against your computer monitor. You could get a dog clicker. You can get anything that'll make that sharp spike in your audio that you can see, so you'll know where certain things are going on in your audio file. So come up with any system you like, but this is a great one that I use to really speed things up.